Restoration at Silo City is the product of a partnership between Buffalo Art Studio and Silo City. Buffalo Art Studio is a 20,000 square foot not-for-profit art center that provides inclusive community connections through exhibitions, educational programs, mentorships, and public art, as well as affordable studio space, exposure, and professional development opportunities for artists. Silo City is a unique cultural and ecological campus that inspires creativity and community within the historical legacy of Buffalo's grain silos. This bend of the Buffalo River, where Silo City is seated, was part of the historic Buffalo Creek Reservation and home to regional indigenous populations for centuries prior to its use for grain storage and milling. We acknowledge the deep history of this land. We give thanks for our current stewardship, and we welcome all to the site. Both Buffalo Art Studio and Silo City have a long history of supporting the creation of innovative site-specific visual, performing, and literary artworks. Restoration at Silo City includes 3 site-specific installations that restore, regenerate, and reimagine the land and the detritus that remains on the site.
My name is Aviel Alexandris. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I often make site-specific work. So I chose to use flour sifting screens that were found on site, and these were used in the process of purifying the flour. What I didn't realize when I retrieved all the screens is that they were actually all quite very different. And so I had to start to look at which ones had similarities and which ones didn't. And what I discovered is that some of them were using a mesh fiber that was plastic, and then some of them were using a mesh fiber that was metal. I chose the mesh screens that were made of metal, both for the purposes of just using a material that couldn't sort of leach off and harm the earth, as well as, thankfully it ended up being a more aesthetically pleasing choice as well. I had the image that I arrived at from the materials, and then it was a matter of choosing which place felt the most in tune with the idea that I had. And ultimately I chose the place that I felt kind of built upon some of the things I was thinking about conceptually with the work. You can't help but just think about and feel the river there because the piece is right by the river. And there's constant traffic, there's constant commotion, there's if there's not boats or barges, there's geese, many geese. So that traffic of the river was really, I think it did have an effect on my final decision to make the piece I'm sort of working in multiples, and those multiples sort of reinforce the idea of movement and, movement over time, movement over distance. And, in a way you could look at the dock itself, which the piece is sort of the main structure of the piece, as a sort of, it is its own highway, right? The river is its own highway.
My name is Joseph Baus, and I'm I'm a mixed media artist working with the recycled material. The Silo City project was very interesting. At the very beginning, we just went there one day. We did tour of the whole site, and there were so many interesting materials just like laying around. And the judge who was helping us around, he took me to one warehouse, and he pulled out the fabric material which was in the boxes, like brand new, I could say. And he mentioned like those are the original filters from the silos, and at that moment was so clear for me, like this is the material. In my mind was to dye the fabric, so I tested different dyes. None of those was working for the on that material, and so I ended up to screen printing. Use the regular screen printing. One side and other side in the two different colors. And when I was looking to where is the possibility, so I saw the windows and really high heights, where my pieces they could be installed, and they could be nicely visible from the different part of the silo. Another moment which was very important was a river which is next to the silo. So at that point, when I realized like there is the river, and even people who are kayaking, for example, or their boats that are going on the river, they could see actually my install. So this was like definite, the decision, like yeah, this is good site. The challenges with the whole site are, it's very raw material. I mean, the whole site, it's just like, it's amazing on one side, but on the other side, it's just really, you need to figure out every single technical element. This was absolutely crazy, crazy install, crazy just to secure everything there and just to bring this up there, because there is no way. So there was a lot of like human power, I could say, of two people to bring this everything up, and it was enormous effort, I could say. The wind is just like really play with my projects, just throwing this over the beams, and they every 2 days 3 days I was coming back and just repair, reinstall this, like untangled the pieces. I should tell, like, just to watch the flow of my pieces, and the wind was nice breeze, and like going from side to side, and just amazing feeling, amazing feeling to see this in the space, and like my idea accomplish a project there, and it was great.
My name is Gareth Litty, and I'm an artist. I make sculptural installations, usually site-specific installations. So I worked with two materials. The first one was a steel cage, filter cage structure that I found on site. They're 9 feet long, and they're about 4 inches in diameter, and they're used as a structure to support the cloth filters. They are used to filter out all of the particulate that are generated from dumping hundreds of tons of grain into the silo. I chose that because it also dovetails into the other material, which is, I chose an American bittersweet climbing vine, which needs a substructure to grow. I chose it because I was trying to think of different ways of introducing time into my work, and I was thinking of this project as a 100-year project, a 100-year installation. And so this first stage is creating this sculptural trellis that acts as a substructure for the climbing vine to grow. The site I chose was this area fondly called as the pit. Rail cars would drive over and drop its load of grain, which would then be taken on conveyors and would be taken up the grain elevators and deposited into the silos. So the pit is it's made of concrete and it has 2 feet of water at the base of it. Every summer, at least for the last 5 years, there's been fish and 2 turtles that are living in there. And so I wanted to sort of enhance what was already happening there, and trying to think of, again, this project as a 100-year project. Like what would this, if nobody touched this pit in 100 years, what would it look like? And I'm trying to sort of expedite the growth and to sort of give it a situation where it can thrive. The first thing I started noticing when I was working on the sculpture was spiders started moving in, and they started creating webs in the substructure, and I really love that because it's just sort of the first layer, the first grouping of organisms that are using this as a structure to build a habitat.